takes to make the world.
Hi there, I'm Carrie Ellis, author of 21st Century Superhuman. This is our 21st Century Superhuman show, and today I have with me Don and John from Saskatchewan, Canada. And hey guys, how are you doing today?
Good. Doing awesome.
These guys are just fantastically skilled at doing really practical things, and I have had the privilege over the last few weeks of working directly with them at a distance on a day-to-day basis, though, making GANs, and I've learned so much. I've learned from their practicality and their you guys have done some really great experimentation and been able to enlarge the amounts that you're making, and it's been so cool. So why don't you just tell us a little bit what you guys think about your GANs making, and then you can go ahead and jump in. It's been kind of a journey, hasn't it?
Yeah. Did you want to take that one, Don?
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, we've just been, ever since...
so, John, just say, hey, I'm John, so people know you're John. And Don, say, hey, I'm Don.
Yeah, I'm Don.
Yeah, he's Don, I'm John.
Perfect.
Together, we're Don and John. Well, since we found out from the foundation that we could use carbon rods to make GANs, things have really taken off for us. Instead of it being days to try to get results when we're making GANs, we're getting results within hours. And so that has really helped push forward our understanding of the GANs, and also knowing the difference between, getting good GANs and GANs that probably isn't going to work for us. And we'll probably get into more detail on that later. So right now, if you like, Carrie, we can go quickly through our...
your shop there? Perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Got going on.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you grab the camera there, Don.
Yep.
Okay.
Carefully move it without getting too fast.
Yeah, slow and easy.
Of course, I have to leave it right there where the cord is.
Okay. Sorry for the shaking of the camera, people.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so right off the bat, what we have here is we just have a regular glass container. We're finding that glass serves our purposes the best, just because glass is a crystal in itself anyway. So we found that it makes a better GANs. And we have our carbon rods, which is, this is just a short one. And this carbon rod is stripped of its copper. Now, stripping it of its copper, I found is a good idea, because these carbon rods do come with a copper coating. And what we found out in our experiments using our little electronic box, right up here, Don,
yep,
that we made, that from a computer power source. And we just took the wires that we wanted. There's 3 volts, there's 12 volts. And when positive, we found out positive dissolves the whatever it is hooked to, and negative does not. So what I've done to get the copper stripped off of these carbon rods, usually when I first start using them, is I will put the positive lead on the carbon rod, and then I'll just put another carbon rod in the container as well. And with the 2 of them in there, whichever one I want stripped, I put the positive lead on it and leave it on there for 30 minutes. And at the end of 30 minutes, all the copper is stripped off the carbon rod.
Interesting. Hey, John, so are you putting that in salt water?
Yes. So basically same process as making GANs. So
it's interesting because we have, I got the same rods you guys did, which is a copper coated, it's called some kind of a gouging rod. It's a graphite rod, but it's for welding. And I just did a food GANs video this week with a couple who are in France at really great stuff. But they get pure graphite rods without the copper on the outside, and they recommended that like for food GANS making, because if you're going to consume the water off the food GANS, that you really wanted a more pure graphite rod. So I haven't tried to figure out yet where we would get those in the United States. They said their best way of getting them has turned out to be, there's some Chinese eBay, I guess, and they get them from China, and they're in France, so they're having shipped there. But anyway, so that's interesting that you're actually going through this process to strip the copper off, because I've been just running mine with it on there until it just comes off after a while of use, and then I have a plain rod. Yep, we just froze up for a second there. You guys there? Hello?
To figure out a way to get rid of that. And
well, I got around that. I just used several sessions of CuO because it went directly to that.
Yeah.
Then it was good to use.
Yeah,
right, so you're using it for, use it for the copper GANS to start out with until it cleans itself off, and then use it for the other GANS. That's
exactly. That's that's what Dawn was doing. I just wanted to shortcut it a little bit so that you know, if people want to get going, this is one way to do it. So yeah, anytime you put the positive lead on your material, the positive lead is going to start dissolving. So that's the so positive dissolves, and we always put negative on our nano stuff, but in this case our negative goes on our carbon rod when we're ready to make GANS. So that's how that goes. Just looking for the longer rod that we oh yeah, here we are.
They're all put away. Yeah,
here we go.
Don, why don't you give us a shot of that workbench a little bit, what you got on there?
Okay. Here we go. Where you want to start here? It's at the end here.
So this is kind of the bench where we kind of keep everything here where we're making the GANS, and it's just, you know, and then once we finish it, we just move it over to the next bench, and this is where we'll draw the water off and clean the GANS. So we got our stations going on here, and then on the opposite side, just turn around.
Yeah. Okay.
On the opposite side of the shop, this is where we kind of do our coil production. And
wow, that is fantastic.
Yeah, and so that's kind of our utility bench, kind of keep everything separated on either side. And then Dawn has another rig set up here for just spinning up the coils. So
yeah, we'll show that later.
Yeah, we'll show that later. So right off the bat, this is kind of a setup that we've been using.
Yeah, you look this way here.
Yeah, we just have the clamps. It holds the
well, you showed how you drilled a hole in it.
Yeah, I drilled a hole in our clamp just to so that we can just slip the rod up through, and it just makes it easier to handle everything, so that when we go to put this all together, and we'll just take our iron bar and we can just slip that right up through there. I just put it on here on the bench.
Okay, so I'm going to try to watch here.
Yeah, you watch the screen. And then once you get it all slipped together, there's everything right there, all put together. And then that just takes and just drops right into the container like that. And it's all nicely held. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. I like simple. And then we have our wires. And so we made our yellow ones are positive. That goes on our plate.
John, is there some kind of a thing that you really need the rod and the metal that you're using within a certain distance of each other? Because I really just, I don't go through all that fancy stuff you do. I just clip both of mine to the side of the jar, and I put them within, you know, like an inch or so of each other.
Well, yes, and by using the bucket like we use right down here, it seemed to work out better. And I put the, well, what is it, 5 to 8 centimeters apart, then it seemed to work better, making CH3. It wouldn't green, or you can let it run longer. What I found, maybe the current was too close to each other.
Well, it depends on the current that you're using too. You can, like in the smaller containers, we can get away with using 3 volts. That's why we have our little device set up with 3, 5, and 12 volt plugins, so that we have our options on how we're going to handle things. We found that I guess what it's looking like is that when we use 3 volts, you can have them 3 centimeters apart. Using 5 volts, try to get them about 5 centimeters apart. Using 12 volts, 12 centimeters apart. And so it kind of graduates up like that for us.
But this is a 1 amp system.
And it's a 1 amp system, and so we can draw up to 1 amp. And we found that in our bigger containers, we do draw 1 amp. In the smaller containers, we've measured it at half an amp. So we're getting half an amp in the smaller ones, but the amps are important. And we found that we haven't gone over 1 amp on anything, but that's the draw. Depending on the resistance, depends on how many amps you're going to draw. So if you saturate your water with salt, you will actually end up with less resistance, and it's easier to get that half amp that the Keshe Foundation talks about having for making GANs. And I think
That's quite technical, you guys. And so, I mean, what you're doing is really kind of talking about the fine tuning of this, and people who understand amps and volts are going to get something out of what you're sharing.
Yes. Yeah, I guess the simplest way to put it is that if you're going to use 3 volts, which is can be done with most telephone chargers. So you can use a simple telephone charger, just cut the end off like what we did here on one of these.
Yeah, this is the one I found
right
in the
here.
bucket. Yeah.
And we just put the ends on it, and we can use the telephone charger, and that's a nice, very simple way to see how this is all how this is done. If I can just kind of get it in the picture.
Yeah.
There we go. So this is nice and simple way to set up for making GANs. You don't have to go through the everything that we have done.
Yeah, because you don't need the box if you're doing this, right? This is the way I do it. I use an old phone charger, and somebody just said, be careful you don't overheat your power system, but I don't know. It seems to be fine to me.
What's interesting that the 0.7 amp charger doesn't seem to work. I've had a 0.7, and I've heard other people went less and it's not working for them.
Yeah, my favorite is a 1 amp. It just really is a champion, and I think it's a 5 volt 1 amp output.
Yeah, and if you measured your amps when you go to when you're making your GANs, you'll find that it's at half an amp anyway, and it's the amps that are important, not the voltage.
So Don, I need you to kind of back up a little bit and let us see a little bit more here, because we're kind of...
I'm the photographer.
You're the photographer. Well, no, I mean, give us a view of the bench and what he's doing there.
Is it going to work?
Yeah. Just tip it down.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, here. So take, and we get the whole bench right here.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good.
There's the whole bench.
Yeah. And then show us a little more. Tell us what those different things are there. It's nice just to be able to see a little bit. Look at all that GANs. Good Lord. Yeah,
there's more. This is our storage shelf up here, actually. This is our CO2. This is our CuO2 and our CH3. So these are all we'd make it, and then we just keep dumping it all into the same container. And
you wash it, right? At what? You're washing it before you add it to the containers?
Yes. So this is all washed GANs up here. Over here on this bench, we're still letting it settle and getting washed at this point. So these are all still settling out. So we try to keep everything kind of in its own place in our shop, because you get so much going, you kind of forget what's what. So we got to make sure that everything is separated, so we know what we've done and what we're doing.
That's beautiful, really beautiful, nice and clean and neat and organized.
And
Great.
yeah, and also by doing it this way with the carbon rods, we don't have to keep nano-coating as many plates as we have been doing. So Don nano-coated these plates in the sun. This was a couple of weeks ago. So our plates really have a time to sit and grow now, because we're not looking to try to use them right away. So this is also working out really good for us that way too.
So are you still using nano-coated plates along with the carbon rods, or just?
Yeah, for making the CuO2.
Yeah, and then
Right.
even
Yeah.
the coil rejects for making reactor coils. I save all those springs. Anything I experiment, I nano-coat them in the sun. Caustic in this cold caustic in the sun, and they're great for making CuO.
Right.
Oh yeah, so now we have lots of leeway. We're also at some point, well, that's what I was working on last night. That's why I wanted to strip the copper off of the carbon rod. My next experiment is to use 2 carbon rods to see what kind of a GANS we get. So strip the copper off of both rods, and then just try to see what we get with just 2 carbon rods. And
With no metal in there, huh?
What's that?
With no metal in there.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
I've also seen a couple of people using, they've used gold and they've used silver, and they've wrapped it in plastic. So they've sealed it in plastic and then put it in there with the carbon rod.
Okay.
So I think that would be interesting too.
Yeah, the foundation talks about doing it outside the glass.
Right.
We tried it a couple of times, and we haven't gotten any success yet, but we're still working on it. It's not something that we have abandoned completely. So it's still an ongoing process, but that's what this technology is. It's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And so we're still learning.
We are. We're in the early stages of learning a completely new science. It's very exciting, really. And it's fun. It's so much fun. I mean, I know, John, you're making health cups out of some of the GANSes, right? And then you guys are like making Magrav units like crazy and getting ready. John, are you making car units yet too?
Yes, I've got a couple of car units made. Ran into some challenges with it. They keep shorting out.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I've got
And how do you tell that they're shorting out? You put it in the, because you had a guy with an older car that was driving a lot of miles, and you guys were trying it in there, right?
Well, we were going to, but then that car broke down, and
Couldn't get around to it yet.
Yeah, we haven't gotten around to it yet because he was using a rental. So obviously we couldn't do it with the rental, and the car was in the shop. So, and I started a new job, so I've kind of got a little busy.
Right. But more to come on that, right?
What's that?
More to come on that.
Much more to come on that, because I'm really excited to try to figure out something for the vehicles, because let's save some fuel, right?
Right.
And but back to the little car Magravs. Something that I found that did is I put my Magrav in my son's car. It shorted out immediately, popped the fuse. So I took it back in to the house, took it apart, and figured out where it was shorting out, used hot glue to keep everything separated so it wouldn't short out anymore. And then when I would plug it in again, it didn't blow the fuse, but I found the Magrav was starting to get hot. So the 12 volts going through it directly was not good. So I ended up turning around and I put a LED in line to it. So now the LED lights up. So now I know that the Magrav is running because I've got an LED to light up to show me that. And also because the LED, the Magrav doesn't get hot anymore, and it's running perfectly in my son's car, even with all the bouncing around.
Interesting.
And he has said that his car feels better. He was like, no other way to describe it. I mean, he says the car is still a piece of junk, but it feels better to be in it.
You know, I read something the other day. I don't know if it was in one of the rooms or what, one of the Skype rooms, but that Mr. Keshe said that when you put a Magrav unit in your car, that the car actually becomes lighter. And so it just operates better because it's in different, I don't know, a different energy makeup, I guess.
Well, it's interacting with gravity differently. You gotta remember, everything is energy. Even gravity is energy. I mean, we have the energies that we're used to every day is electric and magnetic. We are exposed to these energies every day in our devices that we're surrounded with, and then the magnetic field that surrounds the planet. You put it together, we have electromagnetism. I was listening to another guy, and he was describing that there are other energies that we are not exposed to, but we see the effects of them in our realm. So it's kind of it's a combination of energy. So we have electric, and then we have magnetic. Electric and magnetic together makes electromagnetism, and then we got two other energies which are part of the ethereal energy that we don't really know and understand, and that's dielectric energy and diamagnetism. You put dielectricity together and diamagnetism together, you have gravity. And so what the Magravs do is, because they create a toroidal field in the center, they're tapping into that etherical energy, the dielectric and the diamagnetic energies. And so when that happens, it's going to interact with these energies differently, just like the way that we manipulate electricity and magnetism to do work that we want to in this realm. Those energies are doing other things as well. And so when we put them in our vehicles, we are making the vehicle lighter, because it is interacting with gravity differently because of the electric and the dielectric and the diamagnetic energies that the Magravs begin to produce as a field around them.
Beautiful. John, that's awesome. Brilliant. And thank you for the explanation. Let's try and go back to GANS making, because that's kind of what we started out doing here. And I think it might be good to just look at you guys' slides a second, unless you have more that you want to show us on the bench there.
Well, the bench stuff is, I guess, it's important just to know that, keep your spacing properly between your plates. I would say a minimum of 3 centimeters, so 1 inch. And so that is what you want to stay at. You want to go into bigger production. We do put them apart further, but we also up the voltage, but the amps do remain the same, is what we found.
Well, even 3-volt worked good for me too.
Yeah.
I remember that way too, and it seemed to.
Yeah, so the 3 volts or the 5-volt phone chargers, that is the best way for people to get started. But also keep in mind too, is that you don't even need the electricity. You can make GANs in sunlight using glass containers. Well, if you're going to use sunlight, it's important to use the glass containers, because plastic containers will not make GANs in the sunlight.
And so if you're making GANs in the sunlight, what are you putting in the container?
Same thing. It's the same setup. It's going to be your salted water. And we also found that using different salts also makes a difference. So you can use sea salt. You can use Himalayan, pink Himalayan salt. There's also brown salt. So if you know what the properties of these minerals are, then you can use these properties to make different types of GANs to do different things for you. So if, like, I use Himalayan salt, And so when I use Himalayan salt, it has, you know, healing properties. So that's the stuff that I can use in my health cups. Because
so let's finish. When you're making GANS in the sun, you're going to put, you're going to pick the kind of salt, make salt water that's kind of focused on what you want to end up with. Like you guys are using basic water softener salt to make more of your Magrav units and that kind of thing. But if you're going to health cups or health pads, you want to use a salt that's got more mineral base to it.
Yeah, and different properties. It's
so then, would you put a carbon rod in the sun? I mean, if you're doing it in the sun, put a carbon rod in the zinc plate, or?
Oh yes, that's exactly it. It's the same setup.
Not the carbon rod. The carbon rod won't work.
What?
It needs electricity. It will not. No.
I thought we made GANS using the carbon.
No.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
Carbon rod is strictly meant for applying electricity to it.
So you'd use nano-coated copper, right, Don?
That's right, yeah.
Nano-coated copper, because I remember you had a lot set up out in the sun. I was thinking I would set some up out in the sun and just have them going all the time, just to kind of watch them and see what they do. It'd be a nice experiment. And then did you do that with CH3 and CuO as well?
Yes, we did that in the sun too. We did a whole round of experiments in the sun, just to make sure that we could make GANS without electricity, so that when we relayed this information, we could let people know. It's like, you don't need electricity. The only difference between using electricity and the sun is it takes longer in the sun.
So do you think you could do the bucket method in the sun, like do a quantity like we've been doing in the buckets now?
If it's a glass bucket, yes. But it has to be glass in the sun, because the sun rays have to get at everything, because it's the sun that's going to energize the water.
So maybe glass gallon jars would be a good way to do it.
I used a fishbowl.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
A circular one. It holds 3 gallons.
Brilliant. I bet those could be found maybe at thrift stores once in a while too.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Nice. Good idea.
Yeah. Don using the fishbowl, very good results. Like actually that rounded fishbowl, but you're getting like results in like 2 or 3 days. It was making, and the GANS was finished done.
Nice.
And, that's probably because, well, Keshe had mentioned before in one of the earlier teachings that round containers are better.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's...
I know. Yeah, I like round container.
Yeah.
I like the energy. Well, let's jump in and look at your slides a second, because I think that can take us into further discussion and maybe a little more specific about what you've got going here.
Okay.
I'll just switch to screen sharing.
Yeah.
You got too much going on here.
We didn't get it organized.
Okay, can you guys see this?
Salt water, gonna turn something on? Or?
No, we'll leave that be. We got our pictures coming up.
Okay.
Okay, well, we might as well have a seat.
Yep, we're gonna roll up the chair. A lot of work standing. Okay.
So go ahead. I know people have had questions. Tell us a little bit about how you made this volt and amp box.
Wait, we can't see ourselves. Are we in the? Are we in frame?
You know, we show up in a little box, but we can't see ourselves. But once the video is done, people will be able to see us.
Yeah. Okay.
But basically, it's your picture with us on the side in a little box.
Okay, so we're in the picture right now?
You are in the picture right now.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, so this is our little GANS making magic box that we came up with. It's basically a power source for any desktop computer.
And where would you get a power source like this?
Well, you can rip it out of an old computer, or you can take and just go to a used computer store and pick one up. This one I picked up for Dawn. It was $25.
And it had a switch. We had to have an on-off switch.
Yes, it's got to have an on-off switch. If it doesn't have the on-off switch on the back of it, don't bother getting it. That's super important, because without that on-off switch, it's too much of a hassle to try to figure out where all the wires are for turning it off and on. And usually when it doesn't have a switch, it's controlled by the processor of the computer. So since we're not using a computer, it becomes a pain.
And then we went to the electronics store that John helped me out with picking up the banana plugs, the male and female banana plug, and a length of wire. Then he made them up. He custom built the banana wires.
Yeah, that's all custom built. All I did was just get the fittings and then the length of wire. As you can see in the top right corner, I put a little LED in there so that we know that the power is on and it is running.
Cool.
And as you can see across the top of the box, we've got 3 volts, we got 12 volts, and we have 5 volts available.
And how did you manage that?
That was
It's online.
electric. It is online how to do it.
Okay.
And plus you need a multimeter so that you can test and see which wires are the voltages that you are looking for. So basically when you open up one of these boxes, you're gonna find like there's a huge bundle of wires coming out of it. So basically I just cut all the ends off the harnesses, separated all the wires, tied them together, and then so in this case orange was 3 volts, and there was like maybe 7 wires that was giving me 3 volts. I only wanted 1, so I just cut 6 of them away and kept 1. And made the 3 volts. The 12 volt wires were red, and there was about maybe 4 of them. So I cut 3 away, kept 1, and soldered in the ends. And then the 5 volt ones, I think they were a yellow wire. And again, there was more 5 volt wires than all the other wires. I think there was like 10 5 volt wires. So I cut away all of them, kept 3. And then after that, you're going to end up with a purple, a gray, a brown, and a bunch of blacks for the ground. And there's certain wires that you've got to pair together. In Dawn's little box, I believe that I had to pair a blue wire and a green wire together so that the unit would fire up. And then there was a separate wire that I took off to do the power light, and so that when it's on, we know that that we see that it's on.
Okay, so John, we're just going to call you Mr. Whiz for short. No, I'm just, you're really, this is really masterful what you've created here. But what I really like is that we're discussing 3 different ways to get the power to help make the GANs. And one is the sun, the simplest one. And
Yes.
and that can be done. And simply by putting your nano-coated copper and your other metal in with it, and in the salt water, in the sun, and letting it sit in a glass container. And then number 2, which is what I'm using, is old phone chargers, the power supply for an old phone charger that I've picked up for $1 at the thrift store. And I've cut those 2 wires on the end, or, peeled them back, put alligator clips on them, plug it in. And I usually clip it to my things first and then plug it in. But that has worked really well for me. And then for those who are a little more sophisticated at being able to do these kind of things, I mean, I think somebody like Dave in Peru might end up getting some great ideas from this and utilizing this. And some of the other people who have some more sophisticated skills. So thank you so much for sharing with us how you did this. I think this is it's a great, obviously a great tool that you guys have. It isn't necessary for everybody to have this to make GANs, But for those who are running a little more sophisticated shop, they could work on something like this.
Yeah, and that's why we kind of experimented with the 3 ways, so that we had, yeah, and you're right, we got 3 levels of individuals. We got the novice, someone who,
Intermediate.
yeah, the intermediate, and then
I'm an intermediate.
So, I mean, yeah, because I mean, I wanted to set up a way for people to do this without going into a huge investment.
Right.
Because I mean, once people get results, then then they're going to invest.
Right.
Let's start off simple, and then and figure out some things, watch some things, feel the magic, see the magic.
Yeah. I mean, it really is a magical thing to be creating GANs too. It's like creating a living, and GANs is gas in its nano state. It's kind of this, it has a life force, it has an energy, and it's really a wonderful material to work with. So any cautions or, last things you'd like to say about this device before we go on?
Yeah, there's a fellow named cast iron, and he had a device that you can buy online. They sell them between $60 to $100, $150 US. And if you don't want to build one like what we built, if you have the money, you go ahead and order that.
Interesting.
And your amperage and your voltage.
Interesting. Very good. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know buddy who has the cast iron 69 channel. But his name is Doug, and
Doug Edwards.
Yeah, that guy. I mean, I'm a fan because he kind of inspired me back in the beginning, because he was being like really methodical, and some of the stuff that he was discovering just made me want to go forward. So thanks,
Wow.
Doug.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. All right, let's go on here then. Very good. So here's a nice shot of your shop in action. Beautiful.
Oh yeah, that is. Oh yeah. So you see the 3 glass bottles. That's the 3 major GANSes that we use for everything. And then you see we got the production going on at the end. 3 going on. 3 buckets going on there. And yeah, you just wanted to set up the shop so that it made it so much easier to work with.
It's beautiful.
Today we're going to make a lot of GANs. We can do it all at once. We can make, like the way John set up a power supply, I can run 5 things at once if I wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing that I want to mention is the power bar on the wall that's below the breaker panel. That power bar is plugged into our Magrav. And that and our magic GANS making box is plugged into that power bar. So we are using plasma energy to make our GANs.
Oh, that is so sweet. That's awesome.
Ingredient.
Yeah, and that actually does make a difference. The GANs, when we run our power through the Magrav, the GANS comes out fluffier.
Nice.
It's like bellows of clouds. It's really something else to watch.
Beautiful. Great tip. Oh, that is fantastic. I can't wait to get my Magrav made. Very cool.
So once you get your Magrav made, we highly recommend that you use that as a power source to make your GANs, and it does make the GANs more lively.
Sweet. And so those are buckets of GANs being made over there. We're going to get a little more into that so people can see detail a little.
Yeah, and label your buckets.
Right. And you got old ice cream buckets.
Yeah.
I probably have access to more like what you think of as a paint bucket, but food comes in it up the street. So I'm waiting to get a couple of those.
Yeah, we just went to a popular ice cream stand here, and they have the buckets. They sold them to us for 75 cents each.
Nice. I tried my ice cream store up the street. They reuse their buckets, so I'm going somewhere else next.
Well, it's good that they're recycling.
Yeah. Look at how beautiful this is.
Okay, the one on the left is obviously I'm making CH3. So there's a flat iron bar, clip to the side of the pail and the power source, the carbon rod on the other side. Now, what I've done with what I was experimenting making CO2, and when I use jumper wire from the initial setup to the CH3 over to the white jar, I tested the voltage and it dropped down to 1.7 volts. I wanted to lower the voltage if I got a different outcome, and it did. It showed a different kind of GANS, and I wanted to stay away from making CO2 oxide. I wanted to stay away from that, and if I was going to make anything medicinal.
Nice job, Don. Very cool.
Well, that's something you can experiment. You can use your voltage tester and do your own experiment. This is just one of my many experiments.
Very nice.
And that's CuO, obviously, and just doing its thing and letting it bubble and checking on my nano-coating that it doesn't get peeled off. It will get peeled off because there's a lot of voltage going through it. And otherwise it'll turn brown on you, or like chocolate brown.
So you have a carbon rod in there, and you have a piece of nano-coated copper, and the bubbler all at once.
Always, for me, for some reason, always got to be nano-coated copper. If there's no nano-coating, if it comes off, it's going to turn brown. I mean, it seems like it's pulling off way too much copper. But it's recoverable. Just turn the electricity off, leave the air on it for 3 4
Right.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about CuO too. In our experiments, what we found is that it's the time. If you go over your time, then that's when the nano coating is going to start to peel off the So that's why when we give our times, we figured out that these times work perfectly. And oh yeah, what we found out is do things in nines.
So about how long is your bucket time on each of these?
On CuO2, when we're using our glass containers, the tall glass containers, it's 18 minutes. After 18 minutes, the nano coating will start falling off the copper plate.
And then you said you do 6 times that for a bucket because it's about 6 times as much.
Exactly, the 6 times the amount. So
that came out to 120 minutes, 120 some minutes.
So it'd be about 2 hours.
Yeah.
So if I look in my notes here that I made up.
And can you tell us on the other buckets about what your timing on them is?
Yeah. Okay. CO2. Here's my notes. CO2 negative on carbon rod. Use zinc plate. Runs for 53 minutes. So what's 5 plus 3 is 9. There's our 9 again. Always coming back to our number 9. Use LED light. Negative on zinc plate. Run air pump. Use 3 volts. But,
what do you mean negative on zinc plate? Oh, you're talking about the charge, the power thing.
No, the LED.
Right.
Yeah, so I took an LED light and I soldered some wires to it with some alligator clips. And so you actually want the LED to actually run reverse to the way your power is coming in.
Wow.
So there's that to be taken into consideration. And then CuO2.
And then, so how long was it? 53 minutes for the glass jar or for the bucket?
For the glass jar.
So then you would.
This is all for the glass jar, not the buckets.
So then you'd be running a bucket 5 hours or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what Don and I figured out, I know, is because we're using the zinc roofing edging stuff.
Yeah.
That we've got to take the zinc out about every hour because it turns black and put a new piece of zinc in.
Well, if you use a 9-inch strip of zinc, then you'll be okay.
Well, no.
At least that's what I found.
It was an hour and it was running better.
Yeah.
Or it didn't get chewed up, didn't get so dark before the hour was up.
Okay.
And then I'll continue and do that. I think went through 4 lanes.
So see, we're all still learning and practicing and experimenting and to get really good results here. Beautiful CuO2 color there.
And then where was I at?
And so then for the CH3,
CH3, that's a negative on carbon rod, use iron plate, runs 9 minutes, run air for 54 minutes, use 5 volts.
wow.
But you also remember, this is also set up because we're using our magic GANS making box too, eh?
Right. I should, you guys should send me those numbers and I should put them in words under the video. It'd probably be helpful because I'm going to want to go through and recap those.
Yeah, well, I could send you, some of the notes that I have on my computer at home.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So, because I try to keep track of things, just taking notes of everything that I do. And then what else do we got here? Oh, yeah, CuO2. That's a negative on carbon rod, nano copper plate, runs for 18 minutes. Use fresh nano-coated plates or nano-coated coil, run air pump, use 5 volts. And then on our NiO2, which is the zinc oxide, you can negative on carbon rod, use zinc plate, runs 54 minutes, no LED light to as the jumper between the plates. And
Interesting.
also no air pump because you're looking to make more, you want more zinc in your mix than oxygen to make zinc oxide.
Interesting.
And then, yeah, and the rest of these is all, it's all just notes that I have that
Nice.
getting more detailed.
So what was this one, Don? You were explaining this earlier.
Well, this is the CuO. Runtime was perfect. Pumping air into it, the nano-coating didn't pull off. Did it for approximately 2 hours.
That must be a blue jar.
Well, it's the clear luminance color, the clear jar, and it's got that luminance color that we've never seen.
Wow, that's amazing.
And as I dried the GANS out, it's the same way. It's the same color.
Wow.
It seemed to have a glow to it.
Beautiful. Fluffy.
I've been seeing that in some of my experiments that I've been doing at home is that when the GANS initially starts forming, it creates this layer at the bottom of the container, and this layer just glows. And then you have the GANS forming at the top, and it just slowly percolates its way down.
Nice.
And then and that's without air. You add the air to it, then it'll automatically start mixing. It'll mix as it makes.
Right. And then this one, Don?
Well, that's CO2, and I let it settle for about a week, and that's how much it seemed to settle down on itself. I thought it would have done settling because we're talking about 6 buckets I've made of that, and it kept settling. I add some more fresh CO2, and that settled some more. It just like keep compacting to the bottom, seems like, and so it's a collection of 2 weeks worth of GANS there.
Wow, it's amazing. Amazing. Look at that beautiful stuff.
Yeah, so we just keep going.
Yeah, and you can even see it glow in the pictures.
Yes. And so this is really several weeks worth of GANS making, right?
Yeah.
Washing the GANS and then compounding it into continuing to add it to a jar until you.
That's right. Yeah, and since it'll keep on settling, you give it another 2 more weeks, it'll be a couple of inches of water above it. It'll keep settling. It just doesn't want to sit. You think it's done, but it's not.
Beautiful.
And that's just my explanation of what happened when the nano-coating pulled off the plate on the right. It turned chocolate brown water, and then I shut the power off, unhooked the alligator clip, and let the air run for several hours. And I was able to oxidate the GANS and turned from chocolate brown to a light blue color, lighter than the blue on the left because the left one was a perfect run. The nano-coating was perfect. It held up, and that's what I got.
Beautiful. It's got a lot of life force energy to it too. You can see it.
That's right. I'll save this one for the right, just for making reactors, or I'll dry it out. I'll use it for something else.
Right.
Okay,
Nice.
it's less life force, so it's not a waste.
Right. Cool. So beautiful drying GANs.
That's right. Yeah, that's one of the jars I've dumped out and let it dry. I did a couple of sessions and it really does shrink in size once the moisture escapes. And I've been drying now for 2 weeks and it's still not dry. So it's getting there. I just leave it in the sun in the Ziploc bag.
Nice.
That's the same thing with CuO.
Yep. CH3. And then here we have, these are beautiful. This is kind of them progressing along. And you've got probably kind of a paste in there. You still there?
No?
Yeah.
And so what's your objective as you dry this? How do you see yourself using it, Don?
Well, I'm going to save some of it for certain application, making pads, or I'm going to make plasma batteries. There's a lot of development I need to do to continue with my other kind of reactors. So there's multiple uses. Everyone can use this every day, especially the CO2. You dry that out and it is very a lot of health benefits for it. You can use it for everything. It's a good
Sugar in your coffee.
sugar in your coffee. You got a bad mosquito welt on your arm. I rub that on my arm. I got a bad itch. It's gone. Like the bad cut and infection is gone. And half the time it takes to use a product you buy from the pharmaceutical, some cream you use.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, I work in the trades, and I've been using, I've dried some GANS, CO2 GANS down to a just like a real thick, like pancake batter. And I've brushed that on cuts that I get all the time at work. And I know in the past, my cuts would get infected because, well, I'm working around contaminated material all the time.
Right.
But when I put the CO2 on my cuts, healing time is cut in half and there is no infection.
That is fantastic. Very
So
cool.
I already had a bad cut on this finger, and it was bad. I mean, I cut right in underneath the fingernail, and that was 2 days ago, and it's already healing up really good. And I did it on a piece of sheet metal, and anybody who works in the trade,
Wow.
if you catch a burr on a piece of sheet metal, it's a bad situation.
Right.
And so to have it start closing up in like 2 days with no infection, you're doing good.
Wonderful, wonderful practical story, you guys.
So, getting back to CO2, it's a must for everyone to make that. It should be mandatory.
Yeah, that one is mandatory.
It's a no-brainer. Make it. Make your own stuff. Keep a supply of it. You'll need it. Stop buying stuff from the pharmaceutical companies. You don't need to go there.
Thank you for the encouragement, Don. And boy, wait till people hear the food GANS video I just did too. And that's made in the CO2 as well. And just amazing tools and resources we've got here, learning how to use our world in new ways.
For sure.
Yeah.
So these are getting into some of my early experiments with the carbon rods. And this was a CuO that I made, and I used non-nano-coated copper and a carbon rod and 1 amp and 5 volts, just my little phone charger thing that I really like. And I just have things clipped to the side of the jar. And this is it kind of making CuO. And there it is. Beautiful. Oh, I've got air in there as well the whole time.
Yeah.
So air, but I have started nano coating my copper. I've got some nano coating right now, so I'm waiting for that. But beautiful CuO getting made. This is when we usually, I've started pulling the strips of zinc out of my CO2 as it's making. When it gets dark like this, I'll actually replace the piece, and it seems to be maybe an hour, a little bit less than an hour, depending on how much salt water I've got there. And these are just glasses and jars, giant beer mug, and kind of vase things that I got at the thrift store. So that's my CO2 that's just been making. I think those two are switched around, but this is the CO2 in process. I'm just using a clothespin to hold the zinc plate in there. And again, the zinc plates I'm using are, I'd like to get a piece of solid zinc. Don, you and I have been talking about that, but I have these, it's a kind of an edging for roofs or to keep moss off or something like that I ordered through Home Depot. And so I'm going through a roll of that. And then a copper rod in there, and the electricity and the air bubbler.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and see, you're just showing just how simple it is too.
Yeah, this is the simple version. And
your telephone charger.
yeah, and I actually have I've used seawater because I'm near the ocean here, but our water is kind of oily. We're in the Gulf of Mexico that has core exit in it. So I think I'm actually getting better results using the water softener salt for just my mechanical units. And then I'll go back to a sea salt for my my health stuff.
Well, that's right. We're talking two different saturation points. Mine is still saturated, but your ocean water is roughly 3%.
Yeah.
Start throwing CO2 GANS into the ocean.
Right. That's what I've been doing. I take all my salt water and throw it back in the ocean. And I should have taken a picture of a bucket, but I let, as Don, you kind of taught me to do, I let some of that salt sit in the bucket and just saturate the water. This is CH3 making.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Well,
that is alive.
Yep.
You're going to get it in simpler than that. You know,
And I had to really search for a piece of iron, and I finally found a good piece of iron at a wrought iron place where they make railings and things.
That's exactly what you're looking for. Something is wrought iron. It's got more iron and copper. See, what some people think is iron can actually be steel.
Yeah. I ended up people kept saying, "Oh, this is iron," and they'd give me steel, and it wasn't quite right. So
you can't bend it. It's steel.
This is the red kind of just settling. It's sort of bubbling in there. And these are the copper-coated gouging electrodes. That's what they're called that I got at the welding supply. And that's kind of 3 of my GANSes.
Wow.
That's good.
Getting made.
See, that inspires you to get up early in the morning and start a batch. And
you know, I mean, it's really cool when you wake up in the morning and the first thing you can think of is, oh, I got to go out and start another batch of GANS. You know, it's really fun. It's a very, very fun. Yeah. On the right there, that white jar is it's a seawater GANS that I made just using caustic. And really, it's beautiful. It's light and fluffy, and I keep it there. I like to just look at it. I'll use it in some healing pads, health pads.
Yeah.
So Don, this is one of your gizmos. Tell us what's going on with this.
Well, my granddaughter is going to come visit us for a month, and she's from another city in Winnipeg. And so I decided to build her a swimming pool. She's always wanting to go downtown to use the swimming pool. And I had all this lumber kicking around. I had to buy a few sheets, and John and I went and picked up the materials last week. put it all together. So my reasoning behind this as well, my granddaughter have fun swimming, is to put CO2 in it. I want to put CO2 charged water in it and do all this without having to add chlorine to keep the algae out of it.
That is wonderful. Listen to your birds. They sound really happy.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do today. Fill that up today with water. I've got a liner for it and get it started and let the water warm up and our water's pretty cold right now.
That's really exciting. Very cool. I think we're at the end. Okay, we'll exit this and stop screen sharing. Hi, guys.
Oh.
How cool. What fun stuff. Well, I just want to encourage and inspire people to make their own GANs. And I think you guys have given some fine tuning, some more sophisticated ideas to take it to the next level. You know, I mean, I know I started making GANs with just one of the little units that Kevin Blundell was selling, you know, long before he became part of the Keshe Foundation. And they were manufacturing them in China, and it was just a little container. It told you how much salt and how much water to put in it. And it had a little spigot on the bottom. You could drain your GANs out after you made it. And you had a zinc plate and a copper plate, and you put it in there and you let it sit for a few weeks, and you'd get a little GANs in the bottom. And look how far we've come now with the graphite rods and the electricity and the bubbler, aquarium bubbler, and wow. And then doing it in buckets. Oh my gosh. And I was complaining, huh?
We got a 45-gallon barrel outside there, and I could probably make more of it.
I was complaining the first time I tried it in a bucket because I couldn't see in the bucket because I had a blue bucket, and so I couldn't really see what I was doing. And when it got done, I poured it off, and I was like, wow, this doesn't seem like very much. And I had about an inch in the bottom of a jar, and then I went back and made it in the glass jar, and I was like, oh, I think I like the bucket method better. So
way more.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for your practicality and your experimental minds and just moving forward with this stuff. I mean, I know it's helped me a lot, and hopefully you guys sharing in this video will help other people a lot get ideas and how they can put this stuff to work for them.
Well, that's the plan, is to, you know, get everybody working with this, and then, you know, hopefully, you know, just get away from needing, you know, corporations doing things for us and to us.
You're right. And, you know, I think that we were talking about this before the show, how it is, you know, it's a little bit of work to start doing something new. You got to kind of kick yourself in the butt a little bit and say, okay, this really isn't that hard, but I've got to do something I've never done before. And I know I had that at the beginning, and it helps if you can get a little community going. We've been talking about maybe starting to do Google Hangouts at some point so people can be in dialogue with us. But to just really maybe find a friend or a group of friends in your community who want to do it too. You guys, by getting together, you've really inspired each other. And then by me being able to get on Skype with you guys, it's inspired me. And so we're all learning from each other. But when you get to see somebody do it, you can go, wow, this is actually not that difficult. And I can do this. And I know, you know, I've had to go out and look, you know, we've got a really cool big thrift store here. So I'd go there and I'd dig through the phone chargers, and I'd have to take some magnifying glasses so I could even read what it said on the phone charger, you know, like, what does that say? Okay, it's how many amps, it's how many volts, and, you know, start getting the right thing. And then I probably went out 5 times to try and get a piece of iron. I was using nails, but, I love these real pieces of iron that I've finally found. But it didn't just happen in one day, you know, and maybe it would for guys that are really used to knowing where everything is, or even ladies that are used to doing, you know, being out in the carpentry field or whatever. But, you know, it might take a little bit of searching around to find the parts and the pieces that you need. But a lot of this stuff can be gotten pretty reasonably. And Don, did you ever find like a solid piece of zinc?
No, I'm working on that. I may end up ordering on eBay. I don't know what I'm going to get. I'll ask around some guys in Skype there if they found something. And
that was another one that the food GANS people said they found on the Chinese eBay.
yeah,
The solid piece of GANS or of zinc that they had.
Yeah, there's more people in China making GANs than probably anywhere else in the world. So
Probably.
they might have a niche market going on over there.
So you guys were talking about GANS is a practical, useful tool, which is something that is made by getting an interaction going on in salt water that is pulling the plasma energy literally out of the field, and it's expanding the molecular structure of that liquid, that pretty puffy liquid that we end up with. Like John Carl likes to say, it's like it turns into popcorn, the atomic structure, but
right.
We're creating a more active plasma imbued atomic structure that we then can use in health pads, health pens, and I've literally taken my health pens and put them over ice and gotten really beautiful. You can see the plasma field under them. And I've experienced healing myself with the pads. And so you just get one of those plastic things, one of those things that seals plastic, or you can use Ziplocs. And then putting them on the Magrav units, taking a little container and putting some of it, the putty in it for the middle of the Magrav unit or the car unit. What else? Am I missing anything?
I think it's, well, you probably are, because we haven't figured out all the uses for it yet.
It's true. Or as you said, like cuts and putting the water in baths and even drinking some of the water off the CO2 GANs, and especially once we add food GANs to it, purifying your pool water.
I'm sure you can preserve your food longer, and if it was embedded in a dish. Put your food in it, like your tomatoes, it will last longer. Just like
well, even if you took, and you just brought up something. I mean, say you took a little bit of CO2 and you put it in a small container and seal that container and just put that container in the container with your food. The energy is going to move.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's tons of things. I mean,
agriculturally, so we can take the GANS water and put it on our plants in our garden. And I know that the people that are making the food GANs are creating little fertilizer balls out of the pulp left from their food GANs making. How did you?
To educate some of the farmers, I don't have a plan yet how to do it, because this is monumental challenge. They have a set belief system. They're
right.
Using fertilizer, the chemical spray. That's their bottom line. That's what makes them money. They don't know any other way.
Yeah, and in some cases, they're contracted by certain companies that they have to grow things a certain way and use chemicals, or we're not going to pay you at the end of the year. So, I mean, farmers are kind of in a spot, because I mean, they know that a lot of these chemicals are not good for the environment, but in order for them to get a paycheck in the fall, they have to go along with all of this stuff so that they can survive. And we all know the farmers are just like right there on the cusp of not surviving.
It's true.
Yes,
you guys, and John, I loved what you said earlier about, we really got, I mean, look at what we're doing, and you're even powering your GANS making with your Magrav unit. And so I love that. And this really is the wave of change that we can do right at home. It has the ability of taking us away from being dependent on the oil industry and the pharmaceutical industry and all these things that have kind of run our world for so long.
Well, especially the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, I know people that have that have too much faith in the pharmaceutical industry, but I mean, if they just paid attention and read what the pharmaceutical industry says about some of its own prescriptions or drugs, their success rate is, in most cases, as actually less than the success rates of alternative methods used in healing.
Right. And I know you've had incredible results with the health cup, with taking a double walled cup and putting the GANS inside of it and a nano-coated copper coil. And you've got, a son that's recovering from a muscular disorder, right?
Yeah.
And your own.
My daughter, she suffers from anxiety. That anxiety is going away. And actually, it's going away, and she's figuring out that most of the people around her are selfish, and she just never noticed it before, and now she is starting to, and she's not afraid to speak up and say what's on her mind anymore. So that, to me, that's good for her spiritual development, because she's able to unload that junk. Because
I think what all of us are learning, having this plasma around our homes and these devices, is it's creating a field that is strengthening us and making us more clear and more peaceful. I think that's very true.
There was a conference, Don and I were talking this morning, and I have a roommate and Don has a roommate, and our roommates don't have much interest in this technology, and they kind of think that we're a little whacked. But at the same time, they see things working, so they can't really say anything at the same time. With my roommate, I found that since I've been working with the plasma energy and the Magravs, I've had a chance to condition the environment that we're living in. I'm finding that my roommate is actually he's having emotional responses to things that he normally wouldn't have an emotional response to.
Nice.
And I think and Don and I talked about it, and he's having similar experiences in his house. And I said, I think it's because they're holding on to aspects that they have gathered over a lifetime. And they're not, and the plasma energy is trying to
loosen that up,
and they don't want to let go, because they're attached to these aspects that they have collected over the years, and they can't let it go.
Or generations.
Yeah, it's a generational thing. And quite frankly, I'm actually a little curious to see how my roommate is going to handle it, because I'm living in a plasma saturated field in my house. I've got a plasma reactor in my bedroom. My son has a plasma reactor in his bedroom. There's 3 plasma reactors sitting in the living room in a star formation.
That is fantastic.
And plus, my lab table is in the living room, so it's just filled.
That is awesome.
That's
so cool.
GANS and nano-coated wires. There's cups with nano-coated wires ready to go. There's just this energy everywhere.
It's continuous.
And I like it. My son is having positive results.
Let's say we are here to change the world, and we are not alone.
Yeah. I just can't wait for the part of the building that I'm living in. I'm just waiting for a blue glow to start happening.
Lift off. Here goes the house. All right, you guys, this was fantastic, and I'm going to call this Powering Up Your GANS Production. So thank you so much for sharing the details of your wisdom and your practicality. I know that it will make a difference for a lot of people, and want to invite everybody out there in listener land to visit 21stcenturysuperhuman.com, watch our shows at Naturally Better TV, and follow the keshefoundation.org. And thank you for being here with us today. Get out there and do it. Get out there and try this. Make it happen. You can do it from anywhere, from a simple way to complex ways. And we have so many videos out now. There's all kinds of learning tools. So don't be shy. Get excited. Get involved and make this happen in your own world, because it will make a difference on planet Earth. Thank you so much. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks for having us, Cary. And if any of your viewers have any questions for us, just have them forward the questions to you, and then we will do our best to answer them, because I'm sure that there are going to be questions.
Awesome.
We're happy to help anybody that is interested in moving forward with this technology.
Awesome. And I think we'll get tech savvy here and start doing a few Google Hangouts now and then and answer questions too.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Cary.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Don. Thank you so much for your ongoing encouragement and support and vision. And we shall see you all soon. Adios.